Welcome back to another episode of the Behind the Back podcast, Week 8 49ers. The 49ers get the win on Sunday Night Football against the Cowgirls at a score of 30-24. So I'll get right into it. First half was frustrating, to say the least. I was upset because the 49ers, they were the better team throughout the entire game, but even in that first half. And, you're going into halftime and you're down 10-6. You've only put up two field goals, and both of them in the first and second quarter. And it felt like you left so much out on the field. And I'm looking at it and I hear Kyle Shanahan on the screen. He says there's 3 big holding calls that combined for 80 yards of offense off the board. And one of those was technically a touchdown by Deebo Samuel, came all the way back. And so it was like, you're playing a really good game, except you're just shooting yourself in the foot. And so it was frustrating by that regard. The Cowboys, like I said, they haven't been the better team. They haven't really been able to get anything going. Like that 10 points, one drive was really good. The other one, it came up short because of great defense, right? And you've picked off Dak Prescott in this one already. So you kind of figured out what the Cowboys are aiming to do throughout this game, and obviously barring any adjustments they make at halftime. So you're feeling good about that, but yet you haven't capitalized and finished plays like you should have. 2 fumbles that were recovered by the Cowboys that could have gone the other way for the 49ers. And so you let them have, a second chance at that drive. Multiple drop passes in this one by Deebo and company. And so it's like you left so much out there on the court in the first half. So then in the second half, the 49ers open up the half with a great play to Kittle, who takes it the distance, and Isaac Guerendo caps it off with his first NFL touchdown. So shout out to Isaac. He had a phenomenal game. I'll talk about that a little bit more here in a few minutes, but awesome first touchdown to get, and an awesome response coming out of halftime. That was exactly what you needed to see this team do. Kind of take control and take the reins of this and have something go their way that they can build off of. Very next drive, Lenore with a big interception on Dak Prescott. And I was nervous in this one because Marcos and I talked about it this week. Diamador Lenore was questionable with an illness. And before the game, it was announced he was going to play. He was good to go. I texted Marcos and I'm like, dude, this is huge. Like, he's almost our best defensive back, if not our best defensive back at this point. To have him in this game, massive. And here he comes away with an interception on Dak at just a perfect time. I was so thrilled to see it happen. Later in the game, Ricky Pearsall in motion takes a sleight of hand handoff from Purdy and takes it all the way down the field. And this was awesome to see for a couple reasons. Obviously, we all know the story with Ricky Pearsall and how much of a blessing it is to have him still with us today. But especially, out on the football field now as well. Just such a quick recovery and in this one making his name known, and it was just phenomenal to see. So that was one part of it. The second part of it, I compare what I'm about to talk about to a prime Aaron Rodgers. He was a goat at doing this, and that was fooling a defense with the sleight of hand. We've seen a lot of quarterbacks in the history do it really well as well. My latest one that I can compare it best to is a prime Aaron Rodgers, and that's where he drops back and you just kind of do this like quick handoff, or you kind of hide the ball with your opposite hand and fake a handoff, and then you're rolling back out of it. It's like play action type stuff. Well, Purdy takes this snap, immediately shifts sides, and hands it like a sleight of hand handoff to Ricky, who's in motion. And then fakes that handoff to, I believe it was Isaac Guerendo in the backfield. And so it was awesome, and it got the defense. And that was something like, kind of build off this point that I saw a lot with the 49ers in this one. They were starting to look more and more like the Niners of last year, the year before that, where you have all this motion and pre-snap motion. You have all this confusion and forcing the defense one way, making them think you're going one way and taking it the opposite way. It's a lot of counter plays, right? And I saw that especially in this game. I saw it finally kind of rear its head which I haven't seen a majority of this year. And I even saw it in the red zone today. And that's something that, like, this team, I don't know if it's a trust issue with Kyle Shanahan and the youngsters or the guys who are just getting a lack of reps, right? But you saw it a lot throughout this year where you weren't seeing that pre-motion. You weren't seeing the tomfoolery that Kyle Shanahan is and his team are so exceptional at doing. You saw a lot of just basic plays, basic play designs, basic route running, and it's kind of a fault of everybody, right? I mean, you have injuries up and down the roster. You have inconsistencies in terms of play callings, and you're learning a new system. It's like there's a whole bunch of moving parts throughout this entire season for the 49ers, and I would like to highlight especially those injuries, right? So in this one, just to see them kind of get back to what they were so good at for a number of years now, it felt really nice. So second half was starting to go so much better. And then Niners give up a field goal, then a touchdown. And it cuts it to a 6-point game. Like, all of a sudden you have, I think it was a 16-point lead. It's gone. And I mean, in a flash of like 3 or 4 minutes. And that happens at the fourth quarter, start of the fourth quarter and midway. So at this point, the Niners need to go down and score, because otherwise you're going to leave, like, I think just under 4 minutes on the clock for the Cowboys to go down and win this game. I mean, they just need a touchdown and that extra point to win it, to steal this game out of the Niners' hands, right? Dak throws this ball on the first play, and Fred Warner has a perfect chance to essentially ice the game. I mean, you'd be in field goal distance. All you have to do is hand it off, run the clock down as much as you can, and then get any amount of points up on the board. And Fred drops it. And it's so frustrating because he's had such a good year, from the punch outs to flying around the field to just being in the key spots to key interceptions. Like, he's been the guy this year for the defense. He's been the heart and soul of it. And he still is. That's not to say he's not a phenomenal player in this one as well. But to drop that pick was just heart-wrenching for me. I felt like at that point nothing was going our way. And I'm like, oh boy, this is nerve-wracking. We then get lucky. The Niners get really lucky. Dak takes a shot down the field to Turpin, who drops, honestly, it was a bucket ball. It really was. I don't know if Dak could have put that ball on any better than he did. And Turpin just straight up drops it. Like, it bounces off his hands, his helmet, and out of bounds. And I'm like, wow, we might have just stole this game technically, even though we're up by 16 at one point. It's then fourth down. The Cowboys miss a ball. I think it was to CeeDee Lamb. Forgive me if I'm incorrect there, but they took a shot at CeeDee. Wasn't there. Turn it over on downs. Isaac Guerrero takes a massive play, sliding up short of the goal line to seal the game. So, the Niners got it done. They got the win. Going into the bye, we talked about it. Marcos and I talked about how important it was for this team to get this win. Not just from a vibes perspective, but you're trying to stay competitive in the division. You're trying to win some of these NFC rivals and matchups. And you want to just try and get as many tiebreakers at this point as you can, because you don't know how the season's going to shake down with the injuries, the inconsistencies across the board. Everything is a factor at this point. So it was just massive to be able to get this win in any way, shape, or form, and go into the bye with just some vibes up. So key thoughts before I get into my game balls here. The Niners offensively, they did struggle at times, but like I said, the play calling felt more like the prime Niners play calling. Lots of motions, lots of directional confusion. Red zone was much better and way more cleaned up. On the other side, I'm still concerned with how easily this team gives up leads, both small and large. In this one, they had this game wrapped up. This game was over. I mean, they just had to make maybe one stop, go down and put up any points, or go down and make them feel like they don't have a chance. And you couldn't do that. It just seemed like it was play after play that you just failed to get it done, wrap this game up. And I mean, look, these games with the Cowboys, they always seem to either be a blowout or they end really tight. And for this one, like, it did feel like another Cowboy game. It felt like kind of the ones of I guess 2 years ago and maybe the last 5 years or so. It's just a lot tighter, a lot more competitive. One team might pull away, but the other comes back into it and makes it, interesting. So, I mean, look, shout out to the Cowboys. They made some plays and they were able to cut this game to a lot closer than it should have been. But I still want to believe that has a vast majority to do with just self-inflicted wounds throughout this game. When I look at the penalties in this game, the Niners had 9 of them for 73 yards. Obviously, the Cowboys had 6 for 30, but 9 penalties for 73 yards? That's crazy, guys. Like, we got to clean that up. Third down efficiency, you're 50% as the 49ers. First downs, you got 19 of them. Fourth down efficiency, you were 0 for 1. That fourth down, you really needed it, but couldn't get it, unfortunately. But looking up and down, I mean, the Niners played the better game. And obviously, they dominated the ground game with 223 ground yards. Yards per play, they were up at 7.3. Passing yards was really close. Brock played a really clean game. A couple little weird things happened, especially like tipped balls and almost interceptions, right? But, it was a clean game. We talked about taking advantage of mistakes, and, well, the Cowboys didn't do that at times. They could have too. So overall, Purdy played a good game, ended with those 246 yards. All-purpose yards for the 49ers, you're up to 469. So it was a good team win. A lot of guys filled a lot of different categories. So speaking of which, I will get into my game balls. The first one is going to go to the boy, Ricky Pearsall. Welcome back. It's so good to have you on a football field. It's so good to have you here at Life. And just playing a really put together game, honestly, showing what he's capable of doing in this one. He had 38 yards, but he had 4 receptions, and a number of times too, you saw him breaking those coverages and breaking down whoever's covering him and forcing safeties or linebackers to watch his route. So really pleased with what I saw from Ricky in this one. And again, just keep building on this. It's awesome to see. Next game ball is going to go to Isaac Guerrero. Bro had 14 carries, 85 yards, and a touchdown. And, in this one, obviously, Jordan Mason went down with, again, that shoulder injury. I believe it's the same shoulder. Isaac had to step up. Somebody had to step up, right? We talk about the next man up. Isaac was the guy. 14 carries, 85 yards, touchdown, icing the game at the end. Just every chance he had, he was taking it to the outside. He was rolling out of stuff. He's not the biggest guy. He's not a power runner. He's got a lot of potential speed-wise. I think if he can kind of endure a few more hits before he goes down, or at least 1 or 2 more hits before he goes down, he will be the perfect fit for the Shanahan offense. My last game ball is going to go to the tight end, the people's tight end, George Kittle, on National Tight Ends Day. George Kittle ends this game with 128 yards and a touchdown on 6 receptions, and just overall domination in this one. I mean, in the blocking game, in the passing game, he was the X factor for the 49ers. They were able to extend drives with him. They were able to take the shots down the field with him. This was how I want to see the 49ers using George Kittle. When they use George Kittle the way they were tonight, this team is dominant. They really are. And it's hard to see many teams beating the 49ers when George goes for over 100 yards. I would love to pull up the stats to see how many wins we have when George goes over 100, because I guarantee you we're close to undefeated. Because it feels like when he pops off, so do the 49ers. So awesome for him to get that win on National Tight Ends Day. He gets the wrestling belt at the end of the game along with Brock Purdy and Isaac Guerrero. So, vibes are up, like I was saying. I'll kind of close it up here. Vibes are up. You got 2 weeks now before you're back in action and you're playing the Buccaneers. So, you can kind of get back to that health. We got some key guys coming back that I'll kind of talk about with Marcos here as this bye starts to kind of get going. So in closing, regardless of how ugly it was mandatory that the Niners get this win. And everything's up right now. We're good to go. Let's go into this bye. Let's get healthy. And let's look forward to that game against the Buccaneers and go on a run. So thank you for listening to another episode of the Behind the Back Pod. Links in our socials are below. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. Bang, bang, Niner game. Jet out. Peace.